Right now, look, the Republicans are running in a field of 13 or 14. She's running against herself, and right now, she's kind of losing. She's doing well in the polls, but all these questions about her emails, about whether she should face a nomination fight, means that Democrats are worried. They're putting all their chips on one horse, Hillary Clinton. And if she ends up having problems, now they're saying maybe she should be tested now by a Democrat rather than risk sending her into a general election without having had debates and the kind of scrutiny you get when you have a contested fight.
That's political analyst Mark Halperin commenting on Hillary Clinton on NBC's Today Show with Miranda Kahn, J.D. Ayworth. Joining us now from Newsmax Washington, Washington Times columnist Tim Constantine. He's also the host of the Capitol Hill radio show, Let's Talk Hillary. Tim, you just wrote a column saying that this controversy over email shows there are different rules for different people in Washington. Might you elaborate?
Sure. There are different rules on how things are applied, and there's also different rules on how things are reported. And you and I have had the conversation many times about mainstream media and how they choose to do things. But the way things are enforced, or the way things are chosen to be enforced, you look at this Attorney General and who he chooses to pursue, what laws they choose to do, and then you look at the State Department and other parts of the administration where you've got a server, a private server in a private home, and then you have an individual who is picking and choosing which items they will and will not turn over to the State Department, turn over to the federal government as required by law. And I think who else could possibly get away with that other than a Clinton?
What about President Obama? Has he shown any disregard of the law?
I would say yes, from a standpoint of the Constitution. When you look at Civics 101 and you see the separation of powers, you've got the legislative branch of government, you have the executive branch of government, and you have the judicial branch of government. And the idea that they all have their own different areas that they're supposed to do. And he's clearly infringing into that legislative branch.
And what he talks about the pen and the phone, and then we had that executive amnesty order. Speaking of which, we'll have the Texas AG on in just a little while to talk about heading into court to challenge the president. But I'm interested also, as we move outside of what is happening domestically in terms of politics, the president of Afghanistan is preparing to address a joint session of Congress. Your take on the new Afghan president, his command of English, and the fact that he would thank American taxpayers yesterday in that news conference over at the White House.
Kind of remarkable, wasn't it? This is nice, and this is a moment where everybody can kind of draw together, where the administration, where the House, where the Senate, everybody can be on the same page. No one wants Afghanistan to go backwards the way Iraq has, and so the idea that the president has announced he's going to slow down and limit what goes on as far as our withdrawal from Afghanistan and assist them, that the Afghani president is there being our friend and thanking us, which has not been the case over the last few years. It's kind of nice. Everybody's on the same page, and that seems to be an awfully rare moment.
Yes, it does. Well, we're going to be going momentarily to a live look of the president of Afghanistan as he's going to be addressing the joint session of Congress. Is there anything that you're hoping to hear from that?
I think more of that. I think the commitment, everyone is afraid of any military involvement from the United States. Every United States citizen is afraid of any military involvement. But I think the idea that we are staying there in an advisory capacity, in a training capacity, making sure we don't jump out and abandon them the way we did in Iraq, because all that time, money, effort, and most important, lives that were given in Iraq seem to have been squandered by the fact that ISIS is now taking really 2/3 of what was organized and set up by the United States, because no one has been there. And so I think the idea that we will not go backwards, that we will work hand in hand with them, and that they are welcoming to that is good news for everybody.
And Tim, last 30 seconds, with this attitude of gratitude that the new Afghani president displays, will this clear out, with this joint address today to the House and Senate, will this lift the contentiousness we saw in the wake of Prime Minister Netanyahu's visit?
Oh, heavens no. It'll be a temporary kumbaya moment, but I'm sure by next Monday we'll be back to squabbling as regular.
And we will continue to keep our eye on the relationship diplomatically between the United States and Israel, but that's a whole nother topic for a future time. Tim Constantine, host of the Capitol Hill Show and a columnist for the Washington Times. Sir, as always, we thank you for joining us from Newsmax TV. When we come back, let's head deep to the heart of Texas. We'll talk with the Attorney General there about what's coming up in court.